Oh, good evening, folks. Hope you're well. Thanks for the kind comments. Keep them coming. Can't wait to see what the next 14 viewers of my videos are saying. 14 views. I mean, goodness me. They used to say a broken clock is right twice a day. Well, with one of my videos, I'd be lucky if it gets to 14 views a day. And I'm not always right. Hey ho. Well, but thanks if you do watch and you put comments. Bloody marvellous. But it's not for the viewers. The important people who make nice comments on my videos, the important ones. Okay, thank you. Historically, I have been keeping one eye off the ball, if you like, figuratively speaking, because I used to be heavily into UFOs. I've now concluded that they do exist. That's a given. But I don't really think that the ones we see are from out there. I think the ones we see are down, 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 underground. And they've been underground for millions of years. This world that we live upon is far older than we're actually led to believe. And the creationist story from the Big Bang to the creation of the galaxies and the universes, that's a nonsense, quite frankly, because it's all conjecture. You know, these arseholes can't decide, these scientists, the colour of black between them, quite frankly. And I wouldn't believe a word out their bloody mouths anyway. So the world of ufology is full of weirdos, deluded. It's got its fair degree of people on a speaking circuit that have made a career out of bullshit. And when you sit down and you really do your own due diligence and your own research about such things, you know, they talk about millions and millions and millions of years old. How the world's 4 million years. Really? No, it's in the billions. Our world. Our world is in the billions of years. And we think we're so bloody modern. Do you not think in those billions of years that we've come and gone, come and gone, come and gone, come and gone so many times? We've just been replenished. And it doesn't take a great deal of imagination, really, to imagine, what a surprise, that maybe our current us, this bodysuit, is a construct of earlier models of human. They are probably, possibly, as human as we are. But they run the show. That's management. They're the ones who are super intelligent. The Homo capensis they're called. A lot bigger brains. And they restrict us. And we are a worker bee. Human beings are a worker bee species. That's why such emphasis is to produce and produce and work and work and work. And once you finish working, you're no further any use to the system. You see, but those who created us as a species, we are a slave species, humans. Okay. Homo capensis are not human. They are superhuman. They are the ones who designed us and genetically modify and detune our DNA. Because unlike your car where you want to tune it for the best performance, we are tuned to serve a purpose. And that is to be slaves, no more, no less. And that's why we're all slaves. It's our job, you know. We are a slave race. And it doesn't matter how you classify slavery. If you have to work for a living, you're a slave. Human beings are the only idiots that work for trinkets. We get those trinkets by working for a pittance to buy the trinkets. And the irony is you can't take any of it with you. Isn't that moronic? We work our asses off in life to leave our wealth to other people, knowing they can't take it with them anyway. And you only have to look back in history at the rich of the 18th and 19th century to realise they've all gone now. What good was their wealth to them? It's all nonsense, this acquiring things for the sake of ownership, because you don't own anything. Everything you even think you possess, you don't own it in the ultimate times unless you have it buried with you. And sooner or later that'll get dug up and stolen anyway. Just look at Tutankhamun. Bless him. So, there's a lot of argument, by the way, about whether Tutankhamun was in fact Moses, but that's for another video. Jury's out on that. Something worth looking into, but I digress. So, where are the UFOs that we see? I have seen UFOs. You only have to buy a pair of night goggles, good ones, and look up to a crystal clear night sky, and you will see things. It is incredibly busy up there. Okay, very, very busy. Things in all directions and all speeds, incredible speeds. No, they're not satellites. They're not. So whatever is running the show and brought us here and manages us has been here for a long time. But humans have a self-destruct gene. We grow old. We start to grow old after 18/19 years old. It's on the way out. We're on the way out. I'm going. 18th birthday party. It's all downhill from here, my old son. You don't want to say that to an 18-year-old. They throw themselves off a cliff. But it is the reality. We are no, it's a matter of firefighting from that point on. In our late 20s, we start to see the wrinkles. Like, shit, out come the creams. Yes. There's no fighting it, is there? We are programmed to self-destruct, and that's what we do. We just don't replenish the cells, and we wither and die. It's nature's way. It makes way for new stuff, new stock, new slaves. You see, you've got to cull the population. We are actually, in an ideal world, in our current genetic state, all things being equal, designed to live up to 120. Every man, Jack and one of us. But the stresses and strains of life just take its toll. Unless you happen to be royal family. Look at those bastards. Literally bastards, half of them. Yeah. Well, they live to a ripe old age, don't they? They certainly do. Well, they've got access to super duper modern medicine, and they don't have the stresses and strains that we do. It's the stress that kills people the majority of the time. Cancer is a man-made construct designed to keep the population down. There are man-made diseases. Acute income deficiency syndrome, AIDS. Yes. Anally injected death syndrome, if you want to call it that. Well, that's another man-made virus, and there is a cure for AIDS, but they didn't give it to Freddie Mercury quick enough. But there have been, because these bastards in laboratories will not release a disease on the population unless they have a cure. Oh, that's for sure. That's in case one of the royals gets it, and they can cure the royals. It's funny how these shysters, the royals, don't get the diseases and illnesses that we suffer from, do they? They just have genetic ones like haemophilia, okay, which was carried around by Queen Victoria. They have all sorts of inbreeding diseases. And, well, that's what you get when you marry your first cousins. Ask lots of Muslim people why their children are disabled mentally and physically, because they marry too close to the mark, if you get my meaning. With respect, to be fair. But that's their way. But your ufology, back to the point. Well, of course there are UFOs. It's such arrogance to think there aren't, and they haven't been developed by men. Everything you use is antique compared to what truly is. We are actually existing in the Stone Age compared to what is truly available. It's funny, isn't it, how we've advanced so quick since the Wright brothers' flight to now what we see as latest technology flying, but it's nothing. Not when you have technology not far off the technology of Star Trek that we see it. Not as we know it though, Jim. They have interdimensional travel. It's been around. It is around. There are certain points on this earth, if somebody new exists, could see and get to and have access to, they too could travel to other planes of existence. And it happens. Underneath your very feet, there are high-speed rail travel. Mach 1 is 760 miles an hour. Okay? Mach 1. And there are Mach 1, Mach 2 trains. And they'll go to east to west coast of America in 40 minutes. Not bad train travel. Beats Virgin. Yeah. I wouldn't go with Virgin. I'd go with a train that goes all the way, personally. But you have to think about that one. No, there is technology. But we've advanced so much in the last 100 years, more so than we have in the 1,000 years before, haven't we? But can you imagine, we've just thrown a little bit of technology here and there just to keep us happy. We've had 0-point energy, that means free energy, available to us for a long time. But no, that's not the way. You cannot, you see. They have to get the best out of everybody. They have to get the most out of the slaves. And just give them a little crumb here and there. Take a look at what you could have if you work your guts out for the system. We are slaves. We are manufactured as slaves. We are deliberately back-engineered and restricted not to reach our full potential. Because that's not the reason we're here. We're managed by those who have reached their full potential. And we are, and always have been, a slave race. Humans were started here to mine for gold. That's it, gold. And when they finished raping the mountains and the valleys for the gold, and those that did the engineering discovered that humans in their original format were a bunch of lazy bastards, they tweaked our DNA a little bit more and a little bit more until we got to a point where we learnt the idea of work and reward. When we finished raping the land for the gold, we raped the sea for the gold and the minerals. And that's why we have the Dead Sea. Because that is absolutely void of life and void of rare minerals like gold. It's all about the gold. It always has been about the gold. And life now, for me and you, is all about the gold. cash will always be king. But gold, once you've got enough of it, you can change the format, can't you? And gold is extremely useful out there in the universe. It must be one of those rare things that is produced by the earth that isn't produced anywhere else. And this is why they came to mine gold in the very beginning. That's what humans were used for. And we're just the offshoot. Every man, Jack, and one of us, it has a great, 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 and the list goes on, grandfather who was a miner. That's about the sum of it. But I do believe that there is a world below our feet that we can only dream about. And you talk about if there's a heaven. Well, such marvels. But I wait. All I know is that as time gets on, the sadness of life just becomes unbearable for many people. I don't want to be the last to die in my family. I don't want to be having to witness those I love die before I do. The pain must be unbearable for those who are the sole survivor of their families. I really don't want that to be me. Because I don't value life like many people do, particularly. I find it a bit of a bind. Have I achieved what I wanted to do in my life? For the most part, yes, and not many people can say that, because I set my goals appropriately. I wanted to get married and have two children and bring them up to fruition, and my work here is done. Everything else really is sprinklings on a cake, and I can live without that. But no, I've happily seen my children reach adulthood and start their lives, and they are both very successful. And the idea is that me and Mrs. Benjamin Button can get on with our lives and just watch ourselves getting old. And I know, sure as eggs, unless we both have a suicide pact, that one of us will die before the other. Hello, Captain Obvious. And don't you think we talk about it? There's a great film you should watch if you haven't already done so. It's called Bicentennial Man. It's one of the great films by Robin Williams, where a robot wants to become a human being and die like a human being because he falls in love. And that's such a wonderful film. Bicentennial Man. You can get it on pay-per-view or you can go buy the DVD. You must watch it, Bicentennial Man. It's based in the future, where we had slave robots with super intelligence, and the human housekeepers, the man and woman of this house, bought a robot, and that robot saw what it was like to have love between a man and a woman and wanted the same. And that's what human beings are currently on this world, folks. We are robots. And the closest we get to ever having true love is to have a partner in life and breed with that person, and both of you stand and watch the offspring get on with their lives. That's all we're here for. Procreation of the species. Everything else is bullshit. But I know that either my wife or me will be deeply disappointed one day, and deeply saddened and heartbroken. I hope it's my wife that out-survives me. Because quite frankly, I'm dreading the pain. If for whatever reason she went before me. Such a morbid conversation, but let's face facts. None of us live forever. There's a saying, isn't there, that only the good die young. No, I think only the lucky do, to be honest with you. That's a terrible thing to say. No, it isn't. Not really. I'd rather have 20 or 30 great years than 30 great years followed by 40 shit, horrible years. Watch myself fall to bits in pain and having to be reliant on others who don't give a shit. And ultimately, sit there in pain, incontinent, dribbling idiot, losing my marbles, looking out a window in a nursing home, smelling a piss, wondering when the next meal's being served. Is that a cup of tea, dear? I better change my catheter. Is my dressing going to be changed because of my bed? Nota. Nota. I'm a big fan of euthanasia. But I don't understand why the governments of the world would be opposed to euthanasia, if that's what we want. And they make us shy away from that option if they don't give it us anyway. By saying, if you do, you'll go to hell. They put the fear of, see how sick they are. They want to extend our bloody misery because particularly if we are still tax-paying units. Well, it's like being caught by a red Indian who's going to skin you to make a canoe. His canoe. So you pull a knife off him and you stab yourself to death to say, you're not going to make a canoe out of me. Look at all the holes. Well, I would be that person stabbing myself to death just to spite the bastards. But not while I've got a loving wife and 2 children who adore me and I am not a burden yet. But I guarantee you, when I become a burden, and financial or physical, or if I end up in a nursing home dribbling and I've still got a few marbles left, I will do my best to self-terminate. And I made that promise to myself. Because as far as I'm concerned, I've achieved what I want to achieve in life. There's no more magic that I need to do or experience. I've done my bit. Let me go with dignity. And so long as my children are fine and my wife exists, bloody marvellous, I'll just fade away. But if I see myself becoming a burden, I will relieve those I love of that burden. And I will, as they say, publish and be damned. I will go to Holland to join Veritas and take my little bit of chocolate and have my cup of tea and wave goodbye to the loved ones with such dignity and say, it's been great, love you all, see you on the other side. That's it. Doesn't it beat lying there dying alone? Not being discovered for 2 or 3 days or maybe a week. But that's what the government wants to happen to us. They don't care. They only care if you're a tax-paying unit, folks. Otherwise, they don't care. But don't you go helping it along. They want us to suffer. And that demonstrates that they're all psychopaths and Satanists. Well, I'd appreciate your thoughts. Do you agree with euthanasia? Because no matter how long you live, you're never going to stop wanting. Here's the trick for a happy life. Stop wanting things. Just love the things you've got and make the best of them. Every day is a gift. Every second is a gift. And that's why they call it present. Catch you tomorrow. I've got something more interesting to talk about, no doubt. Toodle-pip.